an auction on Friday. Those of you may know or may not know, I'm looking to buy a truck, and I'm looking for a specific truck. Don't everybody tell me what their favorite truck is, and this is what you need to know. I know what I'm getting. I'm just waiting for it to get there. So Thursday afternoon, we get in the car, we get in his truck and trailer, and we're driving. We're just talking and fellowshipping and having a good time. We get to the hotel, and we're checking in. He goes up, he gets his keys, everything, and the lady, and I said, "Do you have another room?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay, I'll take one." And she goes, "Can I have your driver's license?" So I give my driver's license, and she hands it back, and she goes, "Can you just read me your information?" I said, "Sure." Address, 536 Calhoun Street, West Point, Mississippi. Okay, zip code, gave her the zip code, and she goes, "Can I have your phone number?" I said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm married." And she started laughing. She goes, "I have never heard that before." And she's laughing. And so we finished, I give her the phone number, and she finishes, and she gives me my room keys. And I'm standing there holding it, and Mark looks at me, and he goes, "So what you got there?" I said, "Keys to my room." And he goes, "I'm telling you." He goes, "Now I know why Heather bites you all the time." And I said, "Yeah, I know." You know, but it was kind of fun, and we went to the auction, and we got back, and I got to drive a super fast car all the way back from Atlanta area. It was so much fun. And I'm punching it, I'm going the highway, I'm going really fast, and all of a sudden, the check engine light comes on. And I slow all the way back down, and I called Mark, and I said, "Mark, the check engine light just came on." He goes, "Don't you ruin my car." And I was like, all right. I'm going to tell you a story. Xerxes having a big old banquet. People from all over the kingdom are there, and there's after days and days, and there's a party going on, there's wine, there's food, and it's amazing, and Xerxes is having the best time. And he says, "You know what? I want all these people to see my beautiful wife. She is the most beautiful woman in the kingdom." So he says, "Please send Vashti to me." Now Vashti is in another part of the palace, celebrating with the women. And word comes to her and says, "You've been requested by the king." And she says, "Well, you can tell the king, no, I'm not coming." So the word goes back to King Xerxes. And the word is, Vashti says, "No, she is not coming." Xerxes is super mad. Super mad. And he says, "You know what? That's it. Call the officials. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What do we do? What should we do about this?" And all the officials said, "You know what? You can't let this happen. Let it be known throughout the entire kingdom that when the husband is asking something of the wife, she has to do it, especially when it comes to the king and his queen." He goes, "So let it be known that she is cast out. She is never to see King Xerxes again." So, and he says, "Let it be known." And so that went out throughout the entire kingdom. Do you guys know where I'm going with this? Do you know the story I'm talking about? After he calms down a little bit, he says, "I need to find myself another wife." Not that he doesn't have enough already. And he makes it known throughout the entire kingdom. He says, "I need you to go out and search for the most beautiful virgins in the entire world. Whichever one of those pleases me the most, I will take that person as my wife." Now there's a man, poor, living in the outskirts. His name is Mordecai. Mordecai is taking care of his niece. And the messenger came and said, the king requests her to come to the kingdom, to the palace, in order to find out if she is going to be the one. So she goes, and she's being taken care of for a year. It's this kind of treatment. For a year, it's this kind of treatment. And she finally goes before the king. And he is so taken by her. He says, "That's it. I'm going to name you queen." And her name is Esther. Turn in your Bibles. Esther chapter 2, starting in verse 19. I know. Believe me, we don't know where we're going to end, so we got to start at 19. All right, she's been made queen. King is happy. King Xerxes is happy. Everything is going well in his kingdom. All right, so Esther chapter 2, starting in verse 19. All right, everybody there? Ready? Then he goes on and he says this. When the virgins were assembled the second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. But Esther had been kept secret about her family background and nationality, just as Mordecai had told her to do. For she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions as she had done when he was bringing her up. During that time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate. Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway, became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out about the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And when the report was investigated and found out to be true, the two officials were hanged on gallows. All this was recorded in the book of the Annals in the presence of the king. So the uncle did some good things there. See, the uncle knew that he couldn't get into the palace. He knew he couldn't do that, but he still wanted to be there for his niece. So he just waited at the gate, and he was standing there just minding his own business, and he came upon this. The plot was foiled. Xerxes lives another day. Then he goes on. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, elevated him and giving him a seat of honor higher than all of that of the other nobles. All of the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, and for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down to pay him honor. It's one of the things I like about Mordecai. He doesn't always necessarily follow the rules. He knew better. He knew better. He knew that we are never to bow down and honor anybody else but God. And he was bucking the rules. But he knew better. He knew what he needed to do. This morning, my family flipped out because of the shirt that I'm wearing. I came into the family room and my daughter's going, I put this on, Heather's going, what are you doing? What? That just looks weird on you. Well, Heather said this looks weird on me because remember when I bought that polo or that golf shirt for her? This is it, men's golf shirt. She goes, you're wearing my shirt. Buck the rules. You know me, I like to buck the rules. Mordecai's the same way. I'm not kneeling down. I'm not bowing down before you, even though it's commanded. This is about the extent, all right? This is about the extent of me bucking the rules today. All right. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, why do you disobey the king's command? Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, or for he had told that he was a Jew. When Haman saw Mordecai would not kneel down or pay honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all of Mordecai's people, the Jews throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. In the 12th year of the king of Xerxes, in the first month, the month of Nisan, they cast a pur, that is, a lot, in the presence of Haman, who selected a day and a month. And the lot fell on the 12th month and the 12th day, Adar. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the peoples in all the provinces of your kingdom, whose customs are different from those of all the people, and who do not obey the king's law. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let a decree be issued to destroy them, and I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasury for the men who carry out the business. So the king took his signet ring from his finger and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. Keep the money, the king said to Haman, and do with the people as you please. Where else do we read about Xerxes in the Bible? Where? You know he has to be someplace else in the Bible, right? Daniel talks about Xerxes. Here's the thing. This is the importance of this book. If this was to take place, if the Jews were going to get annihilated, if someone did not stand up and do the right thing like Mordecai is doing, if that didn't happen, guess who would be killed? Daniel. Daniel will be killed. Daniel was taken over with the Jews after King Nebuchadnezzar came and took over the kingdom. Remember that? Daniel was there. Then his son took over after that. Then Darius came and took over the kingdom after that. And then after Darius, guess who the next king was? Xerxes. Xerxes was the next king. And when you go back and you start looking at these prophets who were there and they were talking about these things, these are the prophets who were in the land with them, talking about how they had to go back to Jerusalem, how they had to go back and do these things. But if this plot went through, they were all going to be killed. You wouldn't have those. The Jews would be annihilated. It would be done. Did you know also that in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which date back to about 120 AD, there is only one book missing in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Guess what book that is? And I'm hoping you're thinking Esther. And it is. It's found later. Why do you think that it is missing from the Dead Sea Scrolls? And there's only one hypothesis of the reason why this is true. This is the only book in the Bible that does not mention God. Does not. All this is taking place with God helping these people to save the Jews, to save the prophets, to save all these people. It is the only way. Let's go on. Then on the 13th day of the first month, the royal secretaries were summoned. They wrote out all the script of each province and the language of each people, all of Haman's orders of the king's seraphs, the governors in the various provinces, and the nobles in the various peoples. They were written in the name of King Xerxes himself and sealed with his own ring. Dispatches were sent by couriers through all the king's provinces and all in order to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, young and old, women and little children, on a single day, the 13th day of the 12th month, the month of Adar, and to plunder their goods. A copy of the text of the edict was to be issued as a law in every province and made known to the people of every nationality, so they would be ready on that day. Spurred on by the king's command, the couriers went out, and the edict was issued at the citadel of Susa. The king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa was bewildered. When Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. In every province to which the edict and order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes to him to put on of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, attended to her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square in the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told them everything that happened to them, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay out of the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the Edict of the Annihilation, which was published in Susa, to show to Esther and explain to her, and he urged her to go to the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. That's how upset Mordecai was. Wailing, fasting, sackcloth. Because he knew that there were a people that were going to be destroyed. His people. And I was thinking about this. In West Point, the surrounding towns, there are tens of thousands of people who do not know God, who do not know Jesus, who do not know the Holy Spirit. And they're going to perish until someone saves them. And that's us. We need to be so upset about this. We need to be so upset because we know that they're going to die. A spiritual death. But I'm afraid that at times we just don't seem like we understand the gravity of what's going on. Because there's Hamans out there wanting to go against us, to stop us from doing this. But we know the right things to do. We know the right things to say. We know how we should be approaching this. To let them know that they're loved. We don't want them to go. We don't want them to die. We don't want these things to happen. And I feel like sometimes we're just over here enjoying this big party. We come on church on Sundays. We go to Bible study. If you haven't seen the pictures of the pool party yesterday at our house, you need to get on Facebook and you need to see 19 young people swimming and laughing and beating up on each other and having a good time. It was awesome. It was awesome. At one point, they were pushing each other, trying to push each other into the pool. And I said, hey, if you're going to do that and you get hurt, I don't want to hear about it. All right? And they kept pushing and pushing and pushing until someone came out and spoiled everything and said, hey, quit pushing each other into the pool. You're going to get hurt. And I said, dear, I told them they could already. And she goes, well, I don't want them to get hurt. And I'm like, fine. So, anyway. But when we think about the people that you go to school with, that you work with, that you're neighbors with, that everybody that you run into at Walmart, at Tin Lizzie, at No Way Jose, at Sunflower, when we start thinking about those people that we get in contact with, we have to remember they may not know who Jesus is, and we've got to help them see it. But instead, I think we're too much like Esther. And you're going to ask, why do I say that? Because of this next thing. Verse 9. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, all of the king's officials and the people of the royal province know that if any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that he be put to death. That's us. That's us. We have to try to make an excuse on why we're not going to do what we need to do to save the people. We make the excuse. I'm not a good talker, so I'm not going to go and talk to these people. I don't have X. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this because of this or this or this. And there's the reasons why I'm not going to talk to these people and say to these people, because it's not my job. It's not who I am. It's out of my comfort zone. That's not my personality. Whatever the case may be, we're just like Esther. If I do this, I'm going to get killed, so I'm not going to do it. How are we to save the people in West Point and Clay County and Monroe County and the other counties that I can't say the name of around here? How? If we keep coming up with excuses on why we don't do what we know that we're supposed to do. She knew she was supposed to go before the king. She knew that she could do this. She knew that she had the authority. She could get killed, yes, but she could go and do it. Let's go on. The only exception for this is to the king to extend the gold scepter to him and spare his life. But 30 days has passed since I was called to go to the king. When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. Do not think because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. You don't want to do it? Fine. You don't want to help save your people? Fine. You don't want to go before the king? Fine. You can do that. But people will die. People will die. And what's our response supposed to be? What are we supposed to do when we realize that people are dying because we can't talk to them because we're afraid? We don't know the words to say. We come up with excuses on why. We should be like them. We should be like them. What did the Jews all do when they realized they were going to be annihilated? They put on sackcloth and they fasted and they cried and they wept and they wailed and they pleaded to God. And God came up with the answer to help. You got to get out of your comfort zones. You got to get out of your comfort zone. Being a Christian is not about being comfortable. Get out of your comfort zones. Talk with people. Share with people. Find out about them. Just love on them. Just love on them. There are times where I just walk into Tim Lizzie, and depending on the waitress who's there, they go, "Hey, preacher!" And they come over and they just give me a hug. It's awesome. Love that. So what's going on at church? Oh, I tell them all the good things that are happening at church. Man, I'd love for you to be off work some Sunday so you can come. I might do that. Yeah. I might do that. Think Cameron may be getting a car. It depends on the condition of it, of course. And so I went in to talk to Shelter Insurance, and Drew is in there. And he's one of the points of contact for me when I walk in. I walk in the door, and he's like, "Mr. Ross, come on back. How can I help you?" And I think that's so cool, by the way. Small town, people know your name. You know, I'm like, I've never. So they would go, "Okay, what's your number up in Ohio? What's your number on your account so we can pull you up?" No, here they're like, "Hey, Mr. Ross, come in, sit down." So I go in and I sit down, and he's talking to me. And then another lady comes in, and she's like, "You know what? I started following your church on Facebook, and I love it that you put your sermons up, and those are really good sermons." And I said, "Well, praise God, I'm glad." I said, "Yeah, I sent someone a sermon months ago, and they haven't watched it yet, and it was Drew, and he knew it." And Drew was like, I know, I got to get there, I got to go to church, I got to come see you, I got to do all this, and I got to do that." I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay, don't worry about it, you know, whenever you have a chance, we'd love to have you come." I know. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Because you're either going to do it, or God will find someone else to do it instead of you. That's what we just read. Either you're going to do it, or deliverance will come from someone else. And then we still have to give an account for it. Let's go on. And who knows but that you have come to a royal position for such a time as this? Who knows why you're working the way that you are, where you are? Who knows? For the reason that you live in the house that you live in. Who knows that the store that you go shopping in is the reason why you're going there? Who knows that the restaurants that you're attending, the rodeos that you're going to, the dealerships that you're going to, the whatever it is, who knows that the reason why you're going there and talking to them and sharing with them was for that purpose of sharing the gospel with them? Who knows that it may be because of that time and that place that you're being called to do this? Who knows? But you won't know until you try. You don't know. I'm going to find out how this ends. Then Esther said, replied to Mordecai, "Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. And on the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out his gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half my kingdom, it will be given to you." You don't need to know the rest. Well, maybe you do. I'm going to have a banquet. I want you to come. I want you to do this. I want you to bring Haman. Blah, blah, blah. They come and they find out. And she says, "Someone's trying to kill my people." And Xerxes says, "Who is trying to kill your people? Who would do such a thing?" And she says, "This evil Haman is sent out a decree to kill my people. And that includes me." And King Xerxes was like, "This is ridiculous." He left and Haman fell at her feet. And when the king came back in, he thought he was trying to seduce her. And then they said, "Kill him now." And they hung him on the gallows that he had built for Mordecai. And the people were saved. And a cheer went up throughout the entire kingdom. The people are saved. I wish that would happen for us. I wish that the people will be saved. And a cheer will go through the entire town. A cheer will go through the entire county. Yeah! But you have to do what you think you can't do in order to get things accomplished that you didn't want to do. Save the people, get out of your comfort zones, and see the results. Esther was saved. The kingdom was saved because she did what she didn't think she needed to do or want to do because she could be killed. She did it anyway. So when you see those people, talk to them. Show them the love of Jesus and see the results that you're going to get. Then we can see the results. All right? Good story, right? All right, let's go ahead. We're going to have our song of invitation. Blessed Redeemer. And if you need prayer, if you need anything, if you need to fan yourself, whatever the case may be, we're going to stand and we're going to sing Blessed Redeemer. And if you need prayer, if you need something, come down and see me, and we will help you get started on the path. Let us stand.